And welcome everybody to Lyndhurst Community News. Today is Wednesday, June 11th. This is episode 92. I'm Brian Haggerty, and we got some things to share with you this week. And first of all, out of the gate, I always remind everybody that if you have any news, whether it's from your club, your organization, your church, sports team, whatever it may be, birthdays and anniversaries of note, haven't had one of those in a while. Hopefully get to one of those soon. But just email them to us at LyndhurstCommunityNews@gmail.com. You'll find that email in the description box below the video. All right, well, it is official. The new Lyndhurst train station is open. And as a result of that being now open, the Kingsland station is now officially closed. And I know that's been a contention for many people who live in the section of town where the Kingsland station is, because now that means they're going to have to work their way down to the other train station. Now, remember, this has nothing to do with the township of Lyndhurst. They could weigh in on it, but ultimately, Transit makes the final decision. It was they, of course, who built the new train station. That was not funded by Lyndhurst taxes. And also, this is so they could say that you could now be in New York City in under 20 minutes. So by cutting out the Kingsland stop, they save a couple of minutes, apparently, on the commute, which, of course, is what makes Lyndhurst very attractive to new people who want to come into town because they can get in the city so quickly. The new station is absolutely beautiful. I do plan to get down there and actually take some pictures or some video of it to share here on this channel. Now it's perfectly handicapped accessible, which neither the Kingsland station nor the old Lyndhurst train station were. So if you were elderly or handicapped, you were out of luck. So that's a very good thing. Now, one of the questions I keep hearing people ask is why was the station built where it is? Why wasn't it built a little farther to the east so that the commuter parking lot would be right there? And that's an excellent question. And I actually have the answer for that because I was on the committee originally, going back about 7 years ago. The mayor had asked me to be on the committee to meet with New Jersey Transit to discuss the new station and some of the needs and wants we had. So, of course, that was the first question I had asked because years ago it was my assumption that that was where they intended to put the station. However, here's why the station was built where it is. If you look at the area of track by the commuter parking lot, you will notice it has a curvature to it. And in order to have a platform, you cannot have a curvature. So the area where the train stops now is a straight run. Therefore, you can build that platform. So that's the reason why. In fact, if you stand on Ridge Road on the across from the Kingsland station on the trestle, and if you look westward, you will see how it begins to curve. And that's the whole reason why it couldn't be put there. That would have been nice. It also, people are asking why wasn't there a crosswalk built to get people across Delafield Avenue. Good question. That I do not have the answer to. But again, that would have had to be part of the original budget from New Jersey Transit. But we are grateful to have the new train station. It is beautiful. And hopefully it will remain that way for many generations to come. All right, let's see what else we've got here. Okay, some of you may have gotten a letter in town by now that your water meter is going to be replaced by an outside company called National Metering Services. And they've been dealing with water meters and installations with townships and communities and agencies for decades. Now, so just so you know, this doesn't cost you anything. This is paid for out of the water revenue. So when you pay your water bill, we have a separate water utility. And that does not go into the general fund. So in other words, that doesn't go to cover other expenses in the township. It is used strictly for improvements to the water system. So that means every time we replace a water line and the township goes out to bond that, because that's millions of dollars each time we do it, the money generated from the water account will pay off the bond, and that's how they do that. So anything they buy for the water department, and that includes even the personnel at the Department of Public Works who are assigned to the water department, their salaries are paid out of the water department. Now, unlike most communities, Lyndhurst is very unique to own its own water utility. Most other townships have sold it off to United Water or some of the other big conglomerates. And the reason why this is important is because our water is very cheap when you compare it to these other townships and municipalities who buy their water and sold their water system off to a larger company. So I know it sounds crazy because there's no such thing as a cheap bill these days, but I would say from what I'm told, our water bills would be twice to as many as 3 times as much if Lyndhurst were to ever get rid of its water utility. So let's hope that they have no intentions of doing so. So you're going to get that letter. You call up, and the police department has the list of everyone who's going in. They do need access to the room in which your current water meter is residing. For most of us, that's our basements. And they'll swap it out, and it should take all of about a half an hour. And this is only phase 1. So if you didn't get a letter, that means you're not included in phase 1 yet. So you will get a letter at some point. So that's what that is. So even though we didn't have news last week, there were some interesting things that went on, and also some very sad things. There was a house fire on Copeland Avenue, in which, thank God, nobody was injured, neither the fireman nor the occupant of the residence who was home at the time. Now, the fire started from a candle. That's why you should never, ever, ever leave a candle unattended. All you need is a little bit of that wax to melt off, and then the next thing you know, the wick could move down the stream of wax and land on your carpeting or on your bedspread or whatever the case may be. So always remember and keep an eye on all of your smoke detectors and CO2 detectors. You know how I always say that at the end of every episode, and that's as per our volunteer Lyndhurst Fire Department, because they save lives. We all know that last winter we had someone lose his life in another house fire on J Avenue. Why? Because there were no smoke detectors. So please, it's very important. So that was very sad. Another accident that was, if you happen to pass by Angelos restaurant and you notice that his what do you call that thing? The portico or the canopy? I'm sorry, the canopy is missing. Well, it's because there was an accident. A car had flipped over, and it took out the tree as well as the canopy. Now, unfortunately, nobody was hurt, including the driver of the vehicle, who, as it turned out, was an Amazon delivery person trying to look for an address, and unfortunately took her eyes off the road, and she wound up flipping over. But her seatbelt was on. She was completely uninjured, so thank God for that. So that's what happened up at Angelos. Okay, now I was requested to make a passionate plea here on behalf of Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church, because as you know, from July 9th to the 12th will be the Concerts Under the Stars, as well as the Mount Carmel Feast, which is the largest annual event we have in this town, where it brings thousands of people back to Lyndhurst, by the way. A whole bunch. It's like a reunion of all sorts of older Lyndhurst folk who had moved away, but they always come back to enjoy this music and to enjoy the feast. Now, to do this, the church is asking for volunteers. They desperately need volunteers. Now, I always help out. I've been in the wine garden the past few years. Whether or not they put me there, I don't know. Again, but that's where I've been. And because it's hard to get a lot of people to cover each night, and when you consider all the games that are there, you know, you have the 50-50 collection, the 50-50 announcements. It's a lot of stuff is going on, but it's a great deal of fun. And if you are interested, if you can call the rectory at 201-935-1177. You could also sign up online at olmclyndhurst.com/feast. I will leave both of those in the description box. But please, if you or anybody, even if you could only do one night, even if you can only do a few hours, they really need your help, folks. So please help out, and you'll have a great time while you're doing it. It's always a lot of fun. All right, and coming up June, what is the date on this thing here, actually? Okay, well, coming up, oh, yes, Thursday, Thursday, July 10th, at Hendricks Field Golf Course, which is 220 Franklin Avenue in Belleville, there's going to be the 4th annual Lionel Teddy Shoebridge Memorial Golf Outing. Now, this is a great event in memory of the Teddy Shoebridge, who lost his life in that plane crash back in 1969, I believe it was, one of the greatest football players ever to come out of Lyndhurst High School. Yeah, that was one of the greatest tragedies ever to hit the township. And that was where, so Ted Shoebridge was attending Marshall University, and of course he was playing on the football team with also another Lyndhurst young man, Marcelo Latterman. And other New Jersey natives were there too. So Art Harris from Passaic, and a running back, Kevin Gilmore from Harrison, Dennis Foley from Carteret, and the entire team lost their lives in what was an incredible, tragic event. So this is a golf course that has begun 4 years ago, and it's going to be an annual thing. The cost is $175 per golfer, and it's a 9 a.m. shotgun start, and BYOB on the course, by the way. So the entry fee includes the green fee, the cart, your golf cart, of course, a buffet and bottled beer at Michael's Riverside, raffle tickets for prizes as well. And if you're interested, they need to know no later than June 27th. You can email the LFTD Club, which is Lyndhurst High School Football Club, at Gmail. I'll leave that in the description box to reserve your spot. And obviously create a foursome. They're also looking for whole sponsors and raffle prize donations. So again, please reach out if you are interested. It is a 501c3, so anything donated is a tax deduction. So that's all the news there is this week, folks. Again, if there's nothing new really to report next week, we'll start doing the news this time of the year every two Wednesdays. But if anything important comes up, I will obviously let you know, including any new applications for any new projects where they want to build something in town. You'll be the first to know it. All righty. So remember, as I always say, a community is not its houses, it's not its roads, it's not its rivers or streams or trees. All those things are part of it. But a community is truly its people. And this is a great community. And summer's here. So get out there. If you have new neighbors on the block, meet them. Get to know your neighbors. And keep an eye on your elderly neighbors as well. See if they need something from the store, especially when it gets really hot, which I hope is not going to be the case this summer. But either way, this is Brian Haggerty wishing you a wonderful week. Enjoy summer. Congratulations to all the graduates. God bless you, and we'll see you next time.